Welcome to the New Horizons Design Sewing Channel, your place for all things sewing. I'm Amanda, and today I'm going to show you how to make a Dublin Dolman. It's the most beginner-friendly basic top you can make. I'm wearing one today. This is the version we're going to make. It's going to be armbands to finish the arm, a bottom band to finish the bottom. There's no sleeves to attach. There's no set-in sleeves. A Dolman top has the sleeve as part of the bodice itself. So let's get started. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss any other of our new videos. Let's go over what you're gonna need for this project. You're of course gonna need fabric. We'll go over that in a minute. You're gonna need your pattern. These are the pattern pieces we need. The Dublin Dolman has a ton of options. We're going to do the very basic version, so these are the pieces you need for that. You're going to need the basic front bodice, not the gathered one, and you'll want to cut it at the banded bottom cut line. There's a tunic length, there's also a curved hem, but we're going to use a banded finish at the bottom, so you'll cut it at the banded bottom. So the basic front bodice, the basic back bodice, same thing with that banded bottom cut line. You'll need the armband piece. You'll need the bottom band piece. There's a tall bottom band or a short bottom band. It doesn't matter which one you use. The directions will be the same. I'm going to use the short bottom band today. And you're also going to need the neck binding piece. Along with that, you'll need some basic sewing things, scissors or a rotary cutter and a cutting mat to cut it out. You'll need some pins or clips to attach things together as we go. It's a good idea to have an iron handy to press your bands as you go. Let's go over some good fabric options for the Dublin Dolman. It's a very forgiving pattern. You can use almost any fabric you have on hand for it and it will turn out perfectly. Just different fabrics will give you different results. I really like using rayon spandex for it. It's a very loose, lightweight fabric. It works really well for kind of a blousier feel. You can also use ITY. It's kind of a silkier feel fabric, very drapey. Makes for a great version. Poly rayon spandex French terry makes a super great Dublin Dolman as well. Even cotton lycra French terry is good. This is a looped back version. It makes it for a boxier looking feel, but it's kind of like an athletic fit. I like using sweater knits for long sleeve versions. It makes for a very comfy sweater. Bamboo jersey is also a very great choice, nice, flowy. The one I'm wearing is double brushed polyester. Today I'm gonna use basic cotton lycra to make mine. If you choose a fabric that doesn't have great recovery, such as like a sweater knit that when you pull on the edges, it kind of frays a little bit or disappears as you pull on it and it curls up. It makes it really difficult to do bands and binding in that. So you might want to use a different fabric if you choose one of these fabrics that doesn't work well with good recovery. Okay, so let's cut out our pieces. I like to start by cutting out the biggest pieces first. Remember, when we're cutting out our fabric, you'll want to cut it so that the stretch goes across your body. So I fold it over. This is my selvage edge of my fabric, the factory edge of the fabric. This is the cut edge of the fabric. So I fold it over enough to fit my front and back bodice pieces. So I'm going to cut out my back bodice piece first. Notice that there's two lines at the very top. We're going to use the uppermost line because we're doing the basic version. The other line is for if you're doing the version with the gathered front and yokes. It's a really nice version as well. So I fold it over just enough to fit my piece. Make sure that the place on fold is along your folded edge. A little trick I like to do when I'm cutting pieces on the fold like this is I like to cut a tiny, tiny, tiny little notch on the folded edge so that it's easier for me to find the center front and center back when I'm going to add my bands on later. That's my back bodice piece. You'll see my tiny, tiny little notch. So it'll be easier for me to match my bands. Next I'll cut my front bodice piece. Once again, I need a folded edge. So I fold it over just enough to fit my pattern piece on. so now those are the biggest pieces for your project. Now we're gonna cut out the bottom band, the arm bands, and the neck band. Since my fabric's 4-way stretch, meaning it has a good stretch in both directions, I'm gonna cut my bottom band going the opposite direction, but make sure that you cut your bands so that there's good amount of stretch and recovery in the direction you're cutting. For the bottom band, you'll need to cut 2 on the fold. So here's my fold. For the neck band, we're gonna cut 1 long skinny triangle on the fold. For the neck binding piece, we're gonna cut this long skinny rectangle, and it's also placed on the fold. When I'm cutting a long skinny piece like this, I like to use a quilter's ruler to help guide me to make sure it's nice and straight. You can use that same trick to cut a little notch on your fold. Last, we need to cut 2 arm band pieces, and these, once again, are cut on the fold. Make sure that your stretch, your grain line should match your the selvage of the fabric, and the stretch will go opposite your grain line. So once you've got all your pieces cut out, you should have a front bodice, you should have a back bodice, you should have a neck band, 2 rectangles for the bottom band, and 2 rectangles for the arm bands. Let's get sewing. First, we're gonna take your front bodice and place it right side up, and take your back bodice and place it right side down and match up your shoulder seams. I like to start at the neckline. I work my way towards the arm. Pin or flip those in place. Then go ahead and sew along those edges. So the first step, we sewed using a stretch stitch. I used an overlocker or a serger, but you can use your sewing machine, use a zigzag stitch, a lightning stitch, a triple stitch, whatever stretch stitch you prefer. So we sewed along the shoulder top, both shoulders. Next, take your neck band piece, fold it so that the short ends match up with the right sides together. And you'll sew along this short edge. So now we've sewed along the short edge of our neck band piece. Now we're going to take it, and you should have a nice tube now. Now we're going to take it and we're going to fold it so that the wrong sides are together, all the way around, matching up your raw edges. So once you have all your edges matched up, it's a good idea to give this a quick press to hold it in place. Along that folded edge. Don't forget to turn your iron down if you're using a synthetic fabric so you don't burn it. Now that we've pressed it, find the center back and mark that with a pin or clip. And then find the center front and mark that with a pin or clip as well. Then you can find the quarter points and mark those also. So where your center back is, which is where your seam is, we're gonna match that up to the center back. I have that little notch there that I did earlier. But if you need to, you can match up your shoulder points, and the center back will be halfway between. Remember, the back is higher than the front, so if you're not sure which is the higher, or which is the front or the back, the front scoops down lower. So let's match the center back up with the center back. I'll match the center front with the center front. I'm clipping it to the right side of my shirt so that there's 3 edges lined up. Center front to the center front. Now, I'm gonna find the quarter points of my shirt. They won't be at the neck or the shoulder seam, because remember the back is shorter than the front. So find the quarter points. It's a couple inches in front of the shoulder seam for my size 4 version. Match the other quarter point. Once again, I just match my center front and center back up. Find halfway between. Then I'll pin or clip that in place. So now we have 4 clips equally spaced for our neckband. And now you'll stretch in between there to sew. Make sure you do not stretch the shirt itself and only the neckband. I find it helpful to go ahead and put a few pins or clips in between as well. Also, I like to push my shoulder seam towards the back of the shirt. If you're new to sewing neckbands, I suggest basting this on with a sewing machine first, just a simple basting stitch. And then if you like how it looks, go ahead and use your stretch stitch. So now we're going to sew this on. So I've attached my neckband by sewing around that circle, keeping all 3 edges lined up, 3 raw edges. Now I'm going to finish it. I'm going to pick it real quick. You can top stitch this if you like. I usually don't bother to top stitch. So now our neckband's in place. If there's any puckering, don't forget to give it a quick press. Our next step is we're going to match up the front and back bodice side seams. So I like to start at the arm opening and go around down to the bottom, clip or pin those edges on both sides, and then sew those edges up. So now we've sewed along both side seams of our garment, so it's pretty much almost a shirt. We're going to leave it wrong sides out for now for when we attach the bands. Our next step will be to attach our armbands. So the armband pieces are smaller than the bottom band pieces in case you're getting those mixed up. So your armband pieces, get those out. You want to fold those. They're both long rectangles when you cut them out. We're going to fold those over so that the short sides match up. Pin or clip along this edge and sew the short sides together on both your armbands. So we've sewn both of our armbands together so that the short side is closed. Now, just like the neckband, we're going to do all the same steps. We're going to fold it so that the wrong side is inside. Fold it so right sides are out and the long raw edges match up. Exactly the same steps as our neckband. We're going to attach these to the arm openings. After you've folded them so that right sides are out, give them a quick press. Take your shirt, match the seam that you created earlier to the bottom of the arm opening, and then just like we did the neckband, we're going to match opposite sides and the quarter points to equally space it. Your armband doesn't need to stretch to fit the opening like your neckband did. I like to push my side seam towards the back, and I like to nest my seams, which means I have my armband seam towards the front so that there's less bulk right there. Don't forget to finish off your serger tails if you used a serger. Remember, your armband should go inside your garment so that the seam is on the inside. So we put the armband inside when we match it up. So now both your armbands should be attached on either side. Last step, we're going to add the bottom band. Take your bottom band pieces, unfold them, place them right sides together, and sew both short edges. Now you should have both short edges sewn on your bottom band. If you use the tall bottom band, it'll just be twice as high as my pieces. This next step is exactly the same as your armbands and as your neckband. We're going to fold it so that it's right sides out and fold it in half, and both of the long raw edges match up. Once again, you can give it a quick press to make this a little crisper. Find both side seams. Also find your center front and center back. Take your shirt, leaving it wrong side out. Now you're going to match the side seams of your bottom band to the side seams of your shirt. Next, find the center front and center back and match those with the center front and center back of your band. You'll need to stretch your band to fit on your shirt, just like we stretched the neckband. Doing this bottom band is just like doing a giant neckband. So now we have 4 points marked. It's a good idea to go ahead and stretch your shirt or stretch your band and put a few more pins or clips in between if you need to. And just sew this bottom band on and then we'll be done. So now we've sewn the bottom band on our shirt. If it's puckering at all, you can give it a quick press with some steam. And there's your finished Dublin Dolman. Don't forget to share your finished shirt in our Facebook group and ask us if you have any questions. And once again, like and subscribe so you can see more of our videos and what's coming up next.